Well, I've seen some photos. They also have Russia and Iran and Ukraine's NATO facility.
Yeah, and we are live. Hello, Larry. How are you doing?
Hey, just bored with life. Nothing's going on.
Yeah,
waiting for some excitement.
Yeah,
sorry for the sarcasm. Yeah, sorry for the sarcasm.
Yeah,
I mean, if this just didn't involve so much death and destruction, it'd just be a bizarre skit. But it's horrific what's going on, and it's going to get worse.
It looks like things are running out of control very, very, very quickly, and to a pace that I don't know. I have been watching this, and I have a lot of questions. I'll try to be as concise and precise as possible in my questions. But what looks to me is going on, well, what's been going on for like a week or two, or even a bit more, really looks like a decapitation attack from Israel. And I just want to understand, well, also for our viewers to understand, what is a decapitation attack, if I'm right on that or not, and how useful it is. How does it work? Does it work at all?
Yeah,
or it's not that.
So the concept of the decapitation attack is to take out the top leadership of any organization, nation, group, and that the theory that if you will, like a chicken, once you cut off the head, the body will die. The chickens, they can run around for a little bit but they still fall over. So you're thinking that if you just take out the leadership, then it will cease to exist. That's the theory. In fact, unless you kill everybody, then there usually are replacements. There are people who are going to step in, take over. And in some cases, maybe, like in the killing of Nasrallah could be faulted, criticized for being too patient, too inclined to seek political solutions, too inclined to seek negotiation over violence. And you take him out, and he's been replaced by his cousin, who, according to Alistair Crook, this cousin is a man of much, let's call it much firmer resolve and using violence, and is not going to be reelected. Take a decapitation strategy where you take out some experienced leaders. You're introducing a number of unknowns into the equation. Now, that's okay as long as you've got, think of it as an experiment. As long as you've got everything, controlled in a box and contained, and you can control all those variables, then yeah, maybe decapitation works. But what happens when you're with really a dynamic system that you don't control all the inputs and outputs? Then you don't know what you're going to get. And I think we're seeing that today right now as the reports are coming in that Iran has launched this massive ballistic missile strike on Israel. And this is, again, it's portraying Israel as the poor victim, ignoring all the murders, all the assassinations Israel's been doing over the last year. And this was in response to, I think two things. Well, the one thing that precipitated this was the murder of Hassan Nasrallah. Killing Nasrallah was seen by Iran as a betrayal because they had reportedly negotiated. They'd been assured by the United States and Europe If you hold off, if you don't retaliate for the assassination of Ania, if you hold back, we'll respect you. We'll guarantee there's going to be a ceasefire in Gaza. We'll stop the Israelis, and the cycle of violence will stop. Just don't respond. And Pezeshkian, the new Iranian president, went, okay. What a dummy. I mean, good God. You can't believe a damn thing the West says. We are liars. We lied about Minsk 1, we lied about Minsk 2, and we've been lying all along. Told Iran, oh, dude, just do that. Because the West continues to, falsely portray Iran as this ruthless terrorist state and sponsoring terrorism right and left. It's not true. Just the statistics don't support it. The actual data points. Show me the act. Show me the groups that did those attacks. Show me that Iran supported those groups. Evidence like that doesn't exist. They do support Hamas. They do support Hezbollah. And, we've got 24 years of data supplied by the Israeli Foreign Ministry. Not exactly, a pro-Iran source that records every single attack from August of 2000. And then I downloaded the data through April, April 24th of 2024. And, the total casualties by Israelis at the hands of Palestinians in that time period was 1,425. And in terms of how many attacks were attributable, I think over that time period, 105 attacks were attributed to Hamas. So that's 5 a year. And none of those were mass casualty attacks. Same with Hezbollah. So I'm just saying that I'm not saying there was no terrorism, but really, what do we define as terrorism? Terrorism is attacking unarmed people with military hardware, with weapons that can kill you. That I believe. I don't worry about what the political motivation is. I don't worry about whether they're trying to achieve this goal or that goal. It's real simple. The terrorism is when you carry out attacks on multiple civilians and kill them. Well, who's killed the most civilians in the last year? Unarmed. That would be Israel. That would be Israel. Not Iran, not Hamas, not Hezbollah. But you can't go on any U.S. television network or any major social media platform and make that case. You'll be accused of hate speech and anti-Semitism. But it's not true. So with Iran now finally fed up that they had been completely bullshitted by the West.
Over and over again.
Yeah, they unleashed this. Yeah, because they've suffered multiple assassinations inside Tehran, not just Ania. We can go back over the last 12 years where they've killed nuclear scientists. Mm-hmm. So they launched, I don't know how many missiles they launched. The reported of upwards of 300. And you could see, I don't know if you got to see any of the images, but you saw the missiles coming in and you saw the Iron Dome going up and the Iron Dome flying. They missed. Most of the missiles hit the ground. Now, the one thing Iran's doing, I guarantee you on this, is they're not targeting civilian areas to hit civilian areas. They were targeting military targets, military bases, intelligence centers, intelligence data systems, launch platforms. I bet a lot of money on that because you're actually watching the video that was up of Haifa and Tel Aviv. You weren't seeing apartment buildings being blown up like the Israelis did in the middle of Beirut. And what the Israelis are killing, not just Muslims, not just Shia Muslims, they're killing Christians. They're killing Druze.
Anything on the way.
Yeah. Now it's a murderous death cult. This current government, that the Zionist fanatics. I do not equate it with Judaism. because
Of course.
some of the most outspoken critics of what is doing are news. So if were it not for the reporting of people like Max Blumenthal and Aaron Mate and Jeffrey Sachs, him speaking out, and Norman Finkelstein, and us, we have to take that into account, because this shouldn't turn into an anti-Jewish crusade. It ought to be, stomp out this scourge of this fanatical Zionist movement.
Yeah, one data that you mentioned the numbers. I saw data today that this bombing over to kill Nasrallah alone killed 400 people and injured over almost 2,000. That's
it's disproportionate.
Yeah, that made it the biggest, single attack that killed the most people in the last, 20, 30 years or more, since World War II. I don't know. I don't remember exactly, but it's a huge casualty for one single attack.
Yeah, well, the attacks on the World Trade Center in 2001 actually killed me.
Yeah.
In that one, but still, it's an incredible death toll. What Israel in this last year has killed more Palestinians than it did in probably the previous 30 years, and just this 1 year alone.
And that was already a lot, too much.
I'd rather to really be able to do a solid empirical study of it, but. This Zionist mentality, and I'm privy to it because I have some people that I know, acquaintances. I can't describe them as friends because I'm so repulsed by their thinking. But they are convinced that now, Israel's always been the victim. Israel's never done anything wrong. Israel's always been trying to work for peace, which is a lie. Israel cynically was involved with providing financial aid to keep Hamas a viable organization, to use it as a tool to disrupt and destroy the peace process, to be able to serve as a counter to Fatah and the PLO when they were playing leading roles in trying to get peace. Because Israel's never wanted to have a genuine two-state solution. They want it all. They believe they're entitled to all of the land from Jordan to the sea, from Lebanon south. It's theirs. They claim God gave it to them, and God gave them also the instructions to kill the Amaleks. So anybody that's not Jewish, they have permission to kill them, not treat them as human beings. This eruption of violence it's going to continue to escalate. And what I've seen, this mentality, this one individual, if I read you his email, he was saying, now Israel's going to go in and wipe out Hezbollah, and then it's going to go into Syria and eliminate Bashar al-Assad, eliminate the Houthis, and then we'll wipe out Iran. Now that's what these crazy people think. They genuinely believe that Israel has enough military power that it can wipe out Hezbollah, even though it has failed to wipe out Hamas in 12 months of military operations against largely undefended people, that it's going to wipe out the Houthis, even though the mighty U.S. Navy has been able to stop the Houthis after 10 months of Operation Prosperity Guardian, and that it's going to be able to take out Iran. Iran, who's got actually a military, de facto military alliance with Russia, is conducting military exercises with China, with bearing the prospect that an attack like this on Iran could be perceived by Russia and China as an attack on them. And that's who Israel's going to take on. Look at that guy.
Yeah, have fun, enjoy. You brought up a situation, a question to me that really I have. So I remember 9/11 time. Since you mentioned 9/11, and the Netanyahu guy has been talking about 9/11. This is 9/11. This is 9/11. I remember 9/11 time more or less. So I remember that this Saudi guy with big beard from a Saudi group have thrown.
You mean Khalid Sheikh Mohammed or Osama bin Laden?
I'm talking about bin Laden. So this Saudi guy has thrown 2 airplanes in the towers, and from this group, which is more or less Saudi, Al Qaeda, and then he fled to Pakistan and then Afghanistan, and cut blank, we are going to invade Iraq and kill Saddam. I never understood that. Right now, they got attacked by Hamas on October 7th. They carpet bombed the city in Gaza. They carpet bombed Gaza. And they simply turn around and, okay, now we're going to shoot some other guy somewhere else. But what happened there? Hamas was about 30,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, give or take.
Yeah, look, Hamas is not a trained military. They're maybe at best could be described as a militia. They've got some military training. The mistake people make is they try to start the clock on the analytical clock on this on October 7th. And
sure.
It started way before that with the second Intifada. And then you go back to the invasion. Israel's failed invasion in Lebanon 2006. So the biggest thing that Israel has feared is to get a genuine negotiation process underway that would require them to cede territory. Because over the last 20 years, they've allowed these settlers to flood into the West Bank, territory that is supposed to be Palestine, and claim it as their own, and then start stealing land from the Palestinians. They hear God gave us this land 3,000 years ago. Well, I know one particular girl who's with her husband. He comes from New York City. She comes from Miami, Florida. Neither of them were ever born, raised, had anything to do with that part of Israel. They've moved there. They're outsiders. But they're claiming that they got a 3,000-year claim while they're ousting people who've lived there for hundreds of years. Their families, their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, and back have lived there for generations. And they're ousting them from that territory, and they say, oh, yeah, because God gave us this.
That's BS.
That's where I think where religion becomes totally absurd, because what's laid out in the Old Testament justifying murder of one group of people over another, it's just that in my view is evil. We need to try to minimize the killing of people, not maximize the killing of people. Israel's been out of control. So what happened then with Hamas on October 7th, they had planned this operation in advance. Now, whether Netanyahu and his government allowed it to happen, or because of their arrogance and hubris, failed to take action to prevent it, I believe the latter. I know there are a lot of people, it's just like when you talk 9/11, you got all these theories that, the U.S. knew and allowed it to happen because this was done by Israel. And, you try to, having been involved back then and knowing some of the people that did try to warn, they were genuinely trying to warn the Bush White House. The Bush White House wasn't listening. Why? Because they were a bunch of arrogant pricks. They wouldn't listen to anybody. They knew best. But they didn't think terrorism was, the threat from bin Laden was something worth taking account of. And what they really didn't appreciate was bin Laden himself was not the threat. It was his it's called the deputy Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed was, let's call him a diabolical genius. But anyway, what Hamas carried out on October 7th was a military raid. They attacked Israeli military bases, but they also did attack civilian sites in kibbutzim, but had taken prisoners, hostages. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm not saying that was, but the reason they were doing that is because Israel's been capturing Palestinians for years. Upwards, I think the total in custody right now is over 10,000.
Yeah.
Being held without charge, being held just, pick them up because they can, just because of who they are. Hamas was trying to get some leverage. That's why that happened. And then, Israel now officially reports that the total death toll was 1,139. And I believe, based upon what we've seen from the photographic evidence, that as many as 50% of those Israelis killed that day were killed by Israel itself in the Hannibal Doctrine, that the helicopters were blowing up cars that were fleeing the rave site. And those cars may have had a Hamas driver, but they may have had 2 or 3 Israeli hostages in the car. But then out of that, Israel then launches this campaign to destroy, let's just say 1,139 were killed, Israelis. And so they justify that by now killing 45,000 Palestinian women, children, men, elderly. There's no even proportionality in that. And to what end? Because it's one thing, and I do this with respect to training people in self-defense with a firearm. You only get to shoot somebody if your life is in imminent danger.
Mm-hmm.
If you can walk away, if you can disengage, if you can separate, you do that first. That's the very first thing you do. Even though in Florida they have this thing called stand your ground. If you can de-escalate the situation, do so. But once it escalates to the point of using violence, you kill the person that attacked you. Mm-hmm. If there are 3 or 4 other people standing around watching and not doing anything, you don't get to shoot them too because they were just watching. But that's the equivalent of what Israel's done. They've tried to kill the gunman, but they've also killed a bunch of people that were just happened to be in the area. And they go, oh, well, collateral damage. It's like to kill Nasrallah, as you pointed out. There were at least 300-400 other people that died in those apartment buildings, and how many were wounded. So, it's just it's a nightmare.
Yeah, one thing that you mentioned yesterday on the judge, and I think it's very important to punch this every time we can, is that there has been notifications from Israel. Hey, people, we are going to attack here. Move away. Go to this zone so we don't attack. It's okay. They play the nice guy. But people move from this region to the region B, and then Israel bombs the region B.
Yeah. Well, and they've killed, I call that the salt lick method. People that are deer hunters know in some areas it's illegal that you can put out a block of salt to attract the deer because they'll come up to lick on it, and then you shoot them there. That's no sport of hunting. That is just, you track, you might as well put them in a pen and just shoot them while they're penned up. And that's sort of what Israel's done in this. But it wasn't just, they've killed journalists, approaching 200 journalists killed, aid workers, probably in excess of 200.
They've
shot and killed they've killed UN workers. They've shot and killed their own, for God's sake. People who had their hands up with waving a flag, Israeli men, shot and killed just because, they've got a cult of death, and they don't care who they kill. And there's no accountability when you kill them. That's why, they shot that American woman here, Turkish American woman here 3 weeks ago. Yeah. Again, she wasn't brandishing a weapon of any kind. She was standing there, and they shot her.
Yeah, the video from the execution of that journalist from Al Jazeera about 1-2 years ago. I'm not sure anymore the timeline. She was there with the press vest.
Yeah.
And she was just executed, and then they blamed. After all, it was found out that she was shot by Israeli soldier. This guy should have minimum training to understand. Okay, this is press. I'm not even going to Snowden's, not Snowden's, weekly leaks on Iraq. Not even going that far. Assange, yes. Not even going that far. For those that didn't watch the video, it's terrifying to see what was being done there. And that, of course, was not Israel. That was playing United States. But it just seems that we're going in. Doesn't care. Doesn't matter. But one point that I've been asking myself, because when I saw the pages, wow, that's a nice trick. Not impressive, but a nice trick. And then after the pages, they killed Nasrallah. They killed several generals. Basically, the top general, the top Hezbollah people. And that's why I started with the decapitation question. Because that's impressive. When I saw that, I said, "Oh shit! I'm gonna have to to say something in my channel. Say, Israel is not a paper tiger. That's it."
I've never meant to suggest that Israel has no military or intelligence capabilities.
Yes,
they do. The biggest problem I have with them is the attitude problem. Now, and what do I mean by attitude? And again, I run into this when I do instruction. If someone comes to me to learn how to properly shoot a firearm, and they walk in immediately like, "Hey, I know what I'm doing. There's nothing you can teach me." Right off the bat, bad attitude. The contrast with this is one time I had a student for taking my basic rifle class. And I didn't ask him many questions about experience, but as we got into it, and he just said, "Oh yeah, I have some experience." Well, by the end of the class, what I found out, he was the U.S. Marine Corps had trained him as a sniper. He had extensive experience. He really knew more about the subject matter than I did, or at least I would say so. But he sat and participated and allowed me to do my instruction. And he actually complimented me at the end, saying, "Hey, I learned some new things," which was great. But the point was, it was the attitude that even though he had all this experience, even though he'd been in combat, he still was open to learning. You don't find that with the Israelis. They are closed because they know it all. Nothing you can tell them. They know it all. And that's where they get into trouble because they know it all. There's nothing for them new to learn. And a lot of times one very simple example, I can show you the video. The Israeli army does not train its soldiers to carry a loaded pistol. So if you're carrying a semi-automatic pistol, that means you've got a magazine that's inserted. The magazine contains ammunition. When you reciprocate the slide, it chambers one piece round ammunition. That's how, if you're going to carry concealed, carry for self-defense, in my opinion, you should always carry your phone like that. Because then when you're in a situation under stress, all you have to do is pull out, press that trigger, and fire it. The Israelis train their soldiers not to do that. So when they come out of their holster, they have to pull the slide back and let the slide go in order for a round to be chambered. And I got the video that one of their instructors explains why. And the reason why, he says their training is not good enough to ensure that the people who've been trained will actually keep their damn finger off the trigger. So they teach them to do this so they don't shoot themselves. Now think about that. And so there's a video out there of in this one coffee shop, an Israeli soldier, guys in uniform, standing, waiting to order coffee. And this Palestinian comes up behind him and pulls out a knife and starts stabbing him. Now, there are these are revenge attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So he starts stabbing the guy, and you see the guy get his gun out. So they're trying to get the hammer. It takes him 9 seconds before he finally gets a shot off, kills the guy that was attacking him. But he ends up dying too because he got stabbed so many times.
Mm-hmm.
In part because and that's what I mean. That one little instance where, because the Israeli attitude and how they're trained, or how they are poorly trained, even though they have some excellent potential capabilities, they're going to stoop it off. That will end up getting them killed. And I think we're seeing this now as they're trying to expand the war, because they're essentially saying they're going to fight a 5-front war. They're going to fight in Gaza. They're going to fight in the West Bank. They're going to fight Hezbollah in Lebanon. They're going to fight the Houthis. And they're going to fight Iran. Now, the United States demonstrated that in 2003, we couldn't even fight a 2-front war. We had trouble containing what was going on in Iraq and Afghanistan. Israel does not have the ability to fight, sustain, and engage in a 5-front war. It does not have the strategic depth economically or militarily to do that. It is, particularly if it gets caught into a war of attrition, it's going to bleed out. Just like that soldier who got stabbed so many times, even though he was able to shoot and kill the guy who's coming after him, he died. Because Israel's economy right now is in major contraction. It's not expanding.
It's in tatters.
Yeah, no, it is genuinely in tatters. And so you're seeing its bond rating is fallen again with Moody's. And what you're going to see now, I think, I haven't looked at the oil markets today, but I bet you the oil markets are exploding because they fully anticipate Israel's now going to retaliate against Iran. Israel's going to try to hit oil fields, and and Israel may even try to use a nuclear weapon. If they use a nuke, then we're the world's in big trouble at that point.
Yes.
They're going to set the world on fire.
Yeah. I was watching the video from Netanyahu addressing to Iranian people, and
yes.
I don't want to raise your blood pressure, as the judge used to say, but one thing that I find very interesting is the fact that Netanyahu says Israel can reach any part of the Middle East. Well, kind of the Middle East can reach in any part of Israel. It's not that big. It's actually very small. And when you see...
Just ask the Houthis.
I was about to say that, yeah. I was about to say that. When you see that the Houthis... And by the way, this one got me intrigued. Just after they start the incursion on Lebanon, I saw reports from a ballistic missile from Yemen hitting Tel Aviv again, apart from those 300 that you just mentioned about from Iran.
Right.
Were that did happen? Because we're in a gray zone that is kind of hard to know what's strictly true.
Well, if those attacks had not taken place successfully, Israel would have been out there announcing it. But they impose a news blackout, which tells you everything you need to know. So, what we're today was it'd be interesting to see Israel's reaction to what Iran did. Because remember the last time when Iran announced well in advance, okay, we're going to attack. And they first sent drones, then they sent slower flying cruise missiles. Say that fast 3 times. And then they followed it up with some ballistic missiles. And most of them were intercepted, not the ballistic missiles. Because what Iran was doing then was, I maintained, they were doing a demonstration. Basically, they were saying, you fuck with us, this is what we're going to do to you. But today, they finally they pulled the trigger and launched and hit back big time. I think bigger than they would have had if Israel had not started, hadn't launched the pager attack, hadn't killed Nasrallah, hadn't killed senior Iranian Revolutionary Guard commander, a couple of them.
Yeah.
Iran might have been content to just make sort of, again, a token gesture, save face, but not really inflict any damage. That's not what they did today. They launched 300 missiles that Israel was unable to stop, probably 80% of them. Maybe a higher percentage got through. All I can tell you is what I was watching the missiles coming down, and you could see some of the Iron Dome missiles going up, and they were not intercepting. And the other thing is, recognize that for every missile that was inbound, the Iron Dome would have to fire 2 to 3 to try to bring it down. If they fired over 300 missiles, you're talking 900 Iron Dome missiles. Understand that that's like the Patriot missile. In 1 year, now hear me out on this, in 1 year, Lockheed Martin, who makes those missiles, makes a total of 550. Okay? A year.
Well, that's 2 years stockpile.
So right there, in one day, one attack, 2 years worth of missiles gone. Or potentially up to 2. At least 1 year worth. Because if it was just
conservative.
2. Yeah, let's be conservative, say it was just 2 per missile. So that's 600. That's a year supply, like that.
Yeah, in a day. Plus the price. As you said, the economy is not doing very well, and those damn missiles cost a lot of money.
Yeah, I think those are over $1 million a pop. So
and it just
$600 million in 3 minutes. Whoa! Would that'd be a bad night at the casino, wouldn't it? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly that. Things are not going well. Plus, it just occurred to me that, if that attack kind of aimed, as we don't know the result yet, if it kind of aimed into the Iron Dome, the systems spread, that could mean that tomorrow Hezbollah could launch another 1,000.
Well, yeah, Hezbollah's launching, and the Houthis are going to continue to launch. They're going to attrit Israel's air defense system.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going to happen. And so that's what I said. The Israelis walk around. It's like some guy thinks he's a great, fighter, great mixed martial artist. And it may be good with taking on one person, maybe 2 people, but 6. Despite what you see in Jackie Chan movies, he's usually gonna get his ass kicked. And I don't care how tough Israel is. If they decide to fight with 5 different people who can attack from 5 different sides at once, Israel doesn't have the ability to stop that.
I was thinking that. Let's see what's coming from. Just considering the ones that are still there. We still have Hamas. That was what I wanted to understand. They're still there somewhere, maybe hiding, maybe regrouping, but they were not exterminated. Larry, one quick last question that I have, and how is it Russia and China aligned in this situation? Because some time ago we had Russia signing a new deal with North Korea of mutual aggression, and not too far ago also they've been to Iran. They said they didn't announce that they signed anything, any aggression treaty, but they indicated that it was on works there.
Yeah, well, look.
And just these days we had the change on the nuclear doctrine on Russia. Could those things be connected somehow?
No, they're not directly connected anyway. I mean, connected only in the sense that Russia is taking a comprehensive approach to a strategic approach to defending itself. So let's start with the latter, the change in the nuclear doctrine. Putin basically announced it a week and a half ago, but indicated it was a concept that had to go through the approval process and I think it was issued as a formal decree. But what it does is now says that if a nuclear armed state like the United States or the United Kingdom provides weapons to a country or group, so if they provide weapons to Ukraine or to Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, take your pick, and then that country carries out attacks inside Russia, that Russia will treat that as a nuclear attack by the nuclear powered state, and will punish them. Now, this marks a dramatic change in what's been going on since what we call the special military operation. Because during the past 2.5 years, that's exactly what, the United States, UK have been providing weapons to Ukraine. Ukraine's been carrying out attacks inside Russian territory, and Russia has not issued this kind of decree. Now it has. So the West is now put on notice that Russia is going to, if the war stays confined within the Donbass, but anything that extends beyond that in the Russian territory, Russia will respond against the country that's enabling this, facilitating, as you should. If you're the guy selling the drugs to pushers who are out then selling it to kids, they arrest the pusher, but you continue to distribute. They come after you. Got to cut off the distribution point. That's that's how that works. The same with firearms and ammunition and missiles. Now, with respect, though, to Russia-Chinese relations with Iran, they have been conducting joint naval military exercises for at least the last 4 years. So that means on at least a de facto basis, they may find a full agreement, but on a de facto business, they are agreeing that they will cooperate, work together, and conduct operations together. They've also carried out similar ground exercises, military exercises. And then former Defense Minister Shoigu, who heads up the National Security Council now, he's been in Iran 2-3 times over the last 8 weeks, and specifically talking to Iran about this agreement, formalizing cooperation between Iran and Russia. Russia, I believe, has provided Iran with sophisticated air defense systems, at least the L-400, as well as technicians to operate those systems, as well as ample supplies of missiles to keep those systems online. And the reason they've done this is to give the Iranians a way to fend off Israeli missiles when the Israelis try to launch a counterattack. So we'll see how successful Israel is with that. I know a lot of these pro-Zionists believe that Israel can do anything and they can bomb Iran at will, and there's nothing that Iran can do to stop them. I think they're going to be in for a rude awakening, but we'll see. I could be wrong. But this is if Israel decides to escalate Iran, escalating with Russia and China, and in particular, if the United States gets involved to try to launch any attacks on Iran, we're looking at the likelihood of there will be attacks on U.S. soil by Russia, or at least attacks on U.S. military assets. So this is getting out of control.
Very, very, very fast. And things that run very, very, very fast, are hard to stop. This is the big issue. Larry, thank you very much, my friend. Thank you again for coming. For those that watch us, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stream next week. I have a big delivery package on arrival, so I have to to confirm, but for now, probably not. So remember, everybody, that like, share, subscribe on the channels now. Larry's not on YouTube anymore, but he has BitChute, Rumble, which we are live streaming as well. Apart from all the links that are on the description, remember to help the channel. If you're in Brazil, you can send a Pix. If you want to help Larry's work, you can send him a PayPal. You have the QR code here for his PayPal. And man, hope to see you next week or in the next one.
Yeah. Muito obrigado.
Thank you very much. Muito obrigado.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
We'll see you later.
See you.
Keep me posted. Keep me posted on developments.
I will. As soon I'll send you pictures.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Take good care, man. Bye-bye.